Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into an incredibly insightful set of sources. They explore how to build businesses that truly move. And I'm not just talking about, moving revenue figures here. We're talking about moving people, moving markets, even moving culture itself. So our deep dive today, it's guided by two pretty powerful documents. We've got the Beast Business Builders Playbook plus Leadership Foundation Reflection Tool, and also the OmniVertex Group Integrated Business Blueprint. Our mission really is to unpack OmniVertex Group's unique philosophy, their approach to leadership and business building, especially this beast idea, and we want to understand how they plan to operationalize this grand vision for entrepreneurs at every single stage. You're going to discover their core frameworks, their diverse services, and ultimately how they aim to create a lasting, kind of profound impact. Now, here's a question to kick us off. In a world as saturated with talk of hustle culture and even beast mode, which often evokes images of this relentless, maybe unhealthy drive, what does it truly mean to be a beast business builder when, interestingly, the sources explicitly state that it rejects that common model?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question, isn't it? Because Anna Vertex Group sees it as something far more profound. It's not just about performance or, output. It really delves into the very identity of leadership itself. It challenges what we even think of as strength in business.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The playbook, it kicks right off stating that building a business that moves requires more than just, say, a solid strategy. It demands leadership, a thriving culture, consistent cadence, and crucially, deep trust. And our sources really emphasize this quote. Leadership capacity defines the ceiling of everything you will build, and also that leadership acts as the multiplier of business impact. Can you elaborate on this core belief for us? What does that really mean in practice?
Well, Anna Vertex Group essentially argues that unlike capital and market reach, which you can, acquire,
Yeah.
true growth isn't just about what you build, but really who is doing the building. They see leadership as the ultimate bottleneck, almost like the invisible architecture, as they put it, that determines a business's actual ceiling.
Right, the invisible architecture.
Yeah, and it's a powerful idea because it shifts the focus.
Mm.
It moves from external strategies, things you implement, to internal capacity. It suggests that without strong leadership, even the best plans, well, they'll eventually hit a wall. They just can't sustain.
That reframing is really compelling. It really is. And there's a key quote in the playbook that truly stood out to me. It says, "Leadership is not something you perform; it is something you become, and it is the being of the leader that ultimately determines the doing of the organization." Wow. That shifts the focus dramatically, doesn't it? From actions to identity. But okay, how does OmniVertex practically help someone become a certain kind of leader rather than just teaching them, say, a set of skills? What does that inner transformation look like?
Yeah, that's an important distinction, isn't it? It's not just about acquiring skills you can display like a performance. It's really about an internal transformation, something that impacts your entire being. OmniVertex believes that when a leader truly becomes a person of integrity, vision, deep character, then their entire business organically starts to reflect that essence. This isn't a checklist you tick off. It's framed as a journey of self-development and discipline formation. And that then flows into every action, every decision within the organization.
Okay, so if leadership is fundamentally about becoming, let's dive into the name itself, the beast name. The sources are up front. They acknowledge that in the marketplace, beast mode is often, code for unhealthy leadership. Things like unrelenting hustle, ego-driven competition, focusing on short-term wins at long-term costs. We've all seen it. Yet, OmniVertex Group chose this word with, and I quote, conviction, not convenience. They're specifically rejecting the common model to reclaim and redefine leadership strength within what they call a kingdom-aligned business building context, which, as I understand it, means integrating these universal principles like integrity, purpose, impact, beyond just the bottom line. But given those strong negative connotations, how do they ensure new clients, people first encountering them, immediately grasp this redefined meaning? Aren't they worried people might be turned off initially? Is there a communication hurdle there?
That's a crucial point. And yeah, it's a deliberate act of reappropriation. You're right. And the challenge absolutely lies in educating the market, shifting that perception.
Right.
They recognize the negative baggage, absolutely, but they actively choose to imbue Beast with a deeper, much more intentional meaning. It's a clear stance they're taking. It signals a commitment to a different kind of strength altogether, one that's rooted in, foundational values and long-term impact, rather than those superficial wins. It almost serves as a filter, in a way.
Yeah.
Those who resonate with the deeper meaning, their true audience.
Ah, that's clever. So the term itself helps qualify the audience. Okay, so What does the word beast truly signal within the Omnivertex group community then? What are these deeper meanings they're trying to convey?
Right. So within their community, Beast signals 5 core tenets, 5 key signals.
Hmm.
First, it's about strength with humility, recognizing that true power doesn't come from ego, but from being grounded. Second, it signals cadence with consistency, emphasizing sustainable, disciplined effort over those frantic, burnout-inducing bursts.
Okay. Humility and consistency.
Exactly. Then there's alignment with integrity, which means operating with unwavering moral and ethical principles. Everything has to line up. It's also about leadership with stewardship, understanding that your role as a leader is to guide, to nurture, to care for what's entrusted to you, not just control it.
George,
And finally, business building with kingdom values, which reinforces that broader impact we touched on earlier, building something meaningful beyond just profits. And they stress, really stress, that this requires what they call weight-bearing leadership.
weight-bearing leadership.
Yeah. Leadership capable of scaling trust, multiplying culture, and carrying the vision forward without collapsing under the pressure of success. It's fundamentally about disciplined leadership formation, building that inner strength.
That's a really powerful redefinition. And it's not just a concept, right? It's actually an acronym that helps structure this whole approach. Can
Yeah.
you break down what each letter in BEAST stands for? And maybe more importantly, what's the real implication of each part for a business leader?
Exactly, yeah. It's both a stance, a philosophy, and an actionable framework. Let's break it down. B stands for building. This implies they are intentional builders, they're architects. They reject that random, chaotic growth we sometimes see. They talk about architecting leadership culture, business systems, and trust capacity with forethought, vision, and conviction. So, laying foundations that are strong enough to carry significant weight. It's about deliberate, strategic growth.
Okay, intentional architects. Got it. What's E?
E is for enduring. This is the commitment to building something that lasts, prioritizing sustainability over just rapid, maybe fleeting scale. They call this a leadership choice that demands discipline, patience, and the willingness to play the long game in a short-term world. The implication is crystal clear. True legacy is built through consistent trust, not just those quick, flashy wins.
Playing the long game. Makes sense. And A.
A means aligned. This is about building in alignment with our values, with kingdom principles, with our leadership identity. Everything has to connect. And the critical implication here, they state, is that misalignment always leads to wasted energy and fractured culture. It just drains the system.
Misalignment is costly.
Totally. So aligned leaders, they create harmony between their voice, their culture, their strategy, their execution, ensuring every part of the business is pulling in the same direction.
Okay. BEA. What's S?
S represents scalable. Now, this is interesting because it uniquely focuses on building scalable leadership itself. It goes beyond just scaling marketing or revenue. It involves developing the leadership depth and cultural infrastructure that allows trust itself to scale as the organization grows.
Scaling trust.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the powerful insight here is that scalability without leadership capacity always fractures under pressure. It just breaks. So Beast business builders, they aim to scale from the inside out, ensuring that internal strength matches any external growth.
Inside-out scaling. Love that. Okay, finally, T. And critically, T is for trust-driven. This is huge for Omnivertex Group. They state, trust is not one of our values. It is the central leadership currency of our businesses.
Not a value, but the currency.
Precisely. They emphasize that every single interaction, from the leader to the team and from the team out to the customer, must actively multiply trust to truly scale effectively. The implication is profound. Without trust, all other efforts, no matter how brilliant, are essentially built on a shaky foundation. It won't hold.
So this beast framework, it really reclaims that idea of strength we talked about at the beginning, doesn't it? It moves it so far beyond that superficial hustle culture. It feels like a conscious rejection of those shallow leadership trends. And instead, it's an embrace of the deep, often really challenging disciplines required for building something truly impactful, something integral. It seems like it demands a fundamental shift in how you see your leadership identity and, well, by extension, your whole business.
Absolutely. It's essentially an invitation to a different kind of strength, a more impactful, sustainable strength.
Yeah. Okay. Omnivertex Group's core offerings, they extend beyond just this beast philosophy, right? They also encompass leadership development, business culture optimization, and business scaling. And the sources point out a really compelling insight. Leaders are cultural carriers. They carry the culture. And there's that Gallup statistic mentioned, 70% of employee engagement is traced directly to the manager relationship. 70%. This really highlights that leadership isn't just about strategy meetings and spreadsheets, is it? It's about fostering the actual environment where the business operates.
It's an undeniable connection. You can't separate them. If you want a thriving, engaged workforce, you have to invest in developing your leaders, period. Because they are the conduits, the carriers, as you said, of that culture. And what really stands out in their approach is this deep understanding that culture isn't some, abstract concept written on a wall. It's a direct reflection of who your leaders are, how they behave, what they value.
That brings us neatly to another really powerful aspect of their vision, their commitment to inclusive entrepreneurship. The sources note quite starkly that women and minorities remain significantly less likely to start businesses than others due to systemic barriers. That's a reality we need to address. And Omnivertex Group apparently has 3 proprietary models specifically designed to help bridge this gap. Could you maybe highlight the essence of these frameworks? How do they aim to empower a more diverse group of founders?
Yeah, this raises a really important question, doesn't it? About how we ensure equitable access to entrepreneurial success for everyone. And OmniVertex Group tackles this head-on through these 3 specific models designed to support diverse founders. First, there's the RICH model. That stands for Resilient, Innovative, Community-Minded, and Holistic Entrepreneurship. It's really about helping founders build both financial independence and personal development in parallel, cultivating what they call a rich mindset of empowerment and resourcefulness to specifically overcome those structural barriers they might face.
RICH. Okay, mindset and practical building.
Exactly. Second, there's the LEGACY model. This one guides entrepreneurs to build businesses that truly last and leave a legacy. It does this by embedding principles like leadership, equity, growth, accountability, community, and yield, encouraging founders to think long-term and critically to ensure their venture yields positive impact beyond just profits. It's about that bigger picture.
Legacy and impact. Got it. And the third one.
And third is the ADAPT model. This one's designed for today's rapidly changing market and tech landscape. It helps entrepreneurs adjust and pivot their strategies effectively while staying true to their core values. It instills agility and continuous learning. The acronym suggests steps like assessing the environment, designing flexible strategies, applying innovations, promoting diversity and inclusion, and thriving through change. So the core message across all 3 is about building with foresight, with ethics, and with a long-term impact in mind, especially for those founders who historically have faced more obstacles.
Those sound like incredibly comprehensive frameworks, really aiming for holistic, inclusive growth. That's impressive. And speaking of rapidly changing markets, the blueprint also introduces something called the PACE initiative. That stands for Principled AI and Technology Empowerment. Now, why this specific focus on technology, on AI, in a business that seems so centered on leadership and culture? How does that fit?
It's a very pragmatic recognition, really, that artificial intelligence, like it or not, is fundamentally reshaping the entrepreneurial landscape. You can't ignore it. So PACE is designed to ensure their clients can harness emerging tech, like AI, ethically and effectively. It's not just about adopting the latest tools. It includes education on both the opportunities and, importantly, the risks of AI, and developing practical things like tech empowerment audits and roadmaps. So it's really about equipping leaders to leverage technology responsibly, making sure it serves their principles rather than, the other way around.
Okay, that makes sense. Integrating tech ethically. So with all these robust frameworks, BEAST, RICH, LEGACY, ADAPT, PACE, and these deep philosophies, how does OmniVertex Group actually deliver all this? How do they bring these services to a diverse range of clients? Do they have different approaches for, say, a startup versus a more established business or even a large enterprise?
Absolutely. They have a tiered approach, which seems very sensible. It ensures they can provide customized support for businesses at different growth stages. First, they have grassroots services. These are aimed squarely at startups, micro-businesses, maybe solopreneurs who are in the ideation phase or just starting their growth journey. This tier includes things like foundational BEAST playbook training, strategic planning workshops, maybe some business model development, leadership coaching specifically for first-time founders. It's designed to be lean, accessible, and cost-effective.
Okay, so a starting point for the early stage.
Exactly. Then there are the established business services. These are targeted at small and medium businesses, SMBs, that have stable operations, maybe stable revenue, and are looking to get to that next level. Here, the services go deeper. We're talking in-depth consulting on things like business process optimization, team development, scaling strategy, maybe culture audits.
And they often incorporate those inclusive models like RICH and LEGACY here.
Right, helping them scale up properly.
Precisely. And finally, they offer enterprise services. These are geared towards larger businesses, often those seeking really transformational engagements. Same, these are typically bespoke consulting projects, often spanning 6 to 12 months. OmniVertex acts more like strategic advisors on high-level initiatives. This could include executive coaching, company-wide innovation programs, perhaps even involving the PAC Technology Advisory for adopting AI across the organization. And what's compelling, as the blueprint notes, is that clients can actually graduate between these tiers as they grow. So there's continuity, ensuring tailored support at every step of their journey.
I really appreciate that layered approach. It makes sense, meeting clients exactly where they are on their path. Now, beyond the direct consulting, OmniVertex Group also offers specific training and certification programs. Tell us a bit more about those. What's their purpose and impact?
Yeah, these programs are another key part of their delivery model. They're offered primarily through an online learning management system, an LMS, but they also include periodic live cohort sessions for interaction. They seem to serve a dual purpose. One is lead generation, attracting people to their ecosystem. The other is adding significant value for existing clients. And also, importantly, building specific capabilities and demonstrating brand authority in these areas. For example, their signature BEAST playbook program culminates in becoming a BEAST certified leader. It focuses on cultivating that bold, principled leadership mindset we discussed.
So you get certified in the BEAST approach.
Exactly. They also have other programs mentioned, like KCRM, Key Customer Relationship Management, which focuses on mastering customer relationships and sales processes for growth. Participants can become an OmniVG KCRM practitioner. There's VOICE, focusing on communication and brand voice, helping leaders develop a strong, authentic voice for marketing and internal comms, leading to an OmniVoice certified speaker badge. And of course, the PACE Tech Empowerment course we mentioned, teaching ethical AI and tech integration, resulting in a Principal Tech Leader certification. The idea is that earning these certifications acts as a kind of badge of excellence. It demonstrates currency with industry trends and definitely enhances trust, both for the individual and the organization they represent.
Okay, so consulting tiers and stackable certifications. It's quite comprehensive, which brings us to marketing. With such a broad and, frankly, deep offering, how does OmniVertex Group actually intend to attract and engage the right clients? What's the strategic thinking behind their marketing?
Well, their marketing strategy is designed to be what they call a cohesive engine, not just random acts of marketing. It leverages automated sales funnels, mentioning tools like ClickFunnels specifically for things like lead magnets, offering valuable content up front, and then email nurturing sequences to build relationships.
Standard funnel stuff, but integrated.
Right. Integrated with website optimization, making sure their online presence is strong and clear, and a robust content marketing approach. They need to explain these concepts effectively. The goal isn't just to attract eyeballs, but to really convert prospects into engaged clients by consistently delivering value and clearly demonstrating their unique philosophy right from the start.
And speaking of content marketing, this is where it gets particularly interesting, especially for us doing this deep dive right now. The blueprint reveals that OmniVertex Group actually plans to launch its own bi-weekly podcast series, tentatively called OmniVertex Voice or something similar, planned for Q4 2025. And the sources share some really compelling stats about podcast effectiveness. Things like 67% of Americans aged 12 and over have listened to podcasts. That's huge. And remarkably, 46% of weekly podcast listeners have actually purchased a product after hearing about it on a podcast. So they're clearly seeing the potential and stepping right into our world. How do they envision their podcast supporting their broader mission?
It's a very smart move, isn't it? It recognizes the unique power of audio to build connection and intimacy at scale. According to the blueprint, their podcast will feature a mix of formats, interviews with diverse entrepreneurs and experts sharing real-world stories, solo episodes delivered by OmniVertex coaches delving into their frameworks, and Q&A sessions engaging directly with audience questions. The core aim seems to be to humanize the brand, to bring their frameworks like BEAST and RICH and the others to life through relatable stories and actionable insights. It's really about demonstrating their values and expertise in a format that builds trust and connection with their audience over time, nurturing that community.
That sounds like a really solid plan for using the medium. Okay, beyond the podcast, the source describes something called the Ascend Collective as a, quote, cornerstone of OmniVG's long-term strategy. What exactly is this Ascend Collective, and how does it fit into building that loyal, recurring community you just mentioned?
Right, the Ascend Collective sounds like a key piece of their sustainability puzzle. It's essentially a membership subscription program designed for entrepreneurs and business leaders. Its purpose is twofold: create a predictable, recurring revenue stream for the business, and perhaps more importantly, cultivate a vibrant peer network, a real community. They're proposing a tiered structure, which is pretty common, an Ascend Basic and an Ascend Pro tier with different monthly and annual pricing options. And the Pro tier, naturally, offers enhanced perks, things like quarterly one-on-one coaching calls and access to smaller mastermind group sessions, offering a deeper level of engagement and personalized support.
Okay, a tiered membership. Makes sense. But what's the core promise? What are the key benefits members can expect beyond just, getting access to stuff? What's the value proposition?
The core promise, as stated, is to help entrepreneurs continuously learn, connect, and grow, all within a supportive ecosystem. So the benefits include things like an exclusive content library, premium resources, templates, guides, live monthly workshops and webinars, with pro members potentially getting that small group coaching aspect. And a really key component seems to be a dedicated community forum. They mentioned potentially using the Circle platform for this, for daily interaction, accountability threads, to support that ongoing connection.
The community aspect sounds vital.
Absolutely. They also plan periodic challenges, virtual office hours with coaches, discounts on other OmniVertex services, networking opportunities, and even member recognition. But what's really highlighted is a critical emphasis on member retention. They know getting members is one thing, keeping them is another. So they detail strategies like a warm, structured onboarding experience to make people feel welcome immediately. Consistent engagement through fresh content and regular events, active community management to foster discussion, regular feedback loops, surveys, polls to ensure they're meeting needs, value reminders so people remember why they joined, and even flexible options like allowing members to pause or downgrade to reduce outright churn. The overarching goal is clearly to foster a supportive, inclusive culture where members feel like it's genuinely their tribe. That's key for long-term loyalty and that recurring revenue base.
So a deeply engaged, supportive community is clearly central to the whole model.
Okay.
And briefly, how does OmniVertex Group plan to leverage social media to reach their audience and support this whole ecosystem?
Yeah, they plan a strong, active multi-platform presence, but with a tailored approach, not just spraying the same content everywhere. They'll tailor content for each platform based on its unique strengths and user demographics. So using YouTube for maybe longer-form educational videos, Instagram for more visual storytelling, using Reels.x, formerly Twitter, for thought leadership snippets and real-time insights, Facebook for a broader presence, maybe community groups linked to the collective, and even TikTok for short-form, potentially viral, engaging content. The overall aim is simple: be where our audience is, but maintain a consistent brand voice across all platforms. They describe this voice as positive, insightful, inclusive, with a dash of boldness. It's about creating those consistent, valuable touch points everywhere their potential clients might be.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly robust, very well thought out, from the philosophy down to the marketing tactics. But here's a practical question. How does OmniVertex Group ensure smooth delivery? Across all these diverse services, the consulting tiers, the certifications, the community, especially as they plan to grow their client base. How do they handle the operational side of things without losing that essential human touch, especially in a business so focused on leadership and trust?
That's a really important point: scaling operations without losing the essence. They seem to address this by relying heavily on clear operational workflows supported by automation. This structure apparently spans everything, from their detailed client consulting engagement process, which starts with discovery calls, moves to proposals, then structured onboarding, all the way through to the training and certification delivery via the LMS and the day-to-day community management of the Ascend Collective.
So systems and processes are key.
Absolutely. And they highlight the crucial role of a cohesive tech stack to enable this. They mentioned specific tools like ActiveCampaign for CRM and email automation, Zapier for integrating various apps together, making data flow, Circle potentially for the community platform, and a dedicated LMS for the courses. The underlying idea seems to be that by automating the repeatable administrative processes, they free up their human capital, their coaches, their consultants to focus on the deeply personal transformational aspects, the relationship building, the leadership development. It's about achieving scalability without compromising the quality or the connection that's so central to their brand.
That's a smart balance to aim for. Okay, let's touch on the numbers briefly. What's the vision for financial growth outlined in these documents? How do they project their revenue will evolve with this multifaceted model?
Right. The blueprint does provide some estimated financial projections. It outlines expected revenue growth from Q3 2025 through to Q2 2026. Quarterly revenue is projected to increase pretty significantly, actually, from roughly $18,000 in that first quarter, Q3 2025, up to around $95,000 by Q2 2026. But what's particularly strategic and highlighted in the plan is their deliberate shift towards more recurring revenue sources.
Ah, the membership and courses.
Exactly. Those subscriptions from the Ascend Collective and the course sales are projected to make up a substantial chunk, around 40 to 45% of total revenue by mid-2026. And this is crucial because, as any business owner knows, recurring revenue contributes significantly to greater stability and profitability. They're targeting gross margins in the 60 to 70% range. So it really signals a strategic move towards building a more predictable and sustainable business model for the long haul.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, final operational point. What does this all mean for measuring success? How will OmniVertex Group actually track its progress and ensure it's hitting these ambitious goals, especially with all these different components: consulting, training, community, content?
Yeah, they emphasize the critical role of key performance indicators, KPIs, for exactly that reason, making data-driven adjustments and staying on track. They need to know what's working. The blueprint lists several key metrics they plan to track closely, things like leads generated. They had targets starting around 100 in Q4 2025 and scaling up to over 300 per quarter by mid-2026. Conversion rate, looking for around 20% conversion for consulting leads and aiming for 30% or higher for membership trials.
Okay, lead gen and conversion.
Right. Also, the number of active clients, specifically consulting clients, aiming to grow from maybe 3 initially to 10 or more. Client satisfaction and retention. This is key for their brand. They're targeting high net promoter scores, NPS, or customer satisfactions, CSAT scores, aiming for 90% or more. Membership count and churn. For the Ascend Collective, the goal is hitting 200 members by Q2 2026 while keeping monthly churn below a challenging 5%.
Low churn is tough but crucial for membership models.
Absolutely. And for the training side, course enrollment and completion rates, aiming for 80% or higher completion to ensure people are getting value. And then, of course, various marketing KPIs, website traffic, email engagement rates, social media reach, and eventually podcast downloads once that launches. The underlying philosophy, they state, is clear and direct. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. They seem committed to using data for continuous optimization across the board.
We have certainly covered a tremendous amount today, really digging deep into OmniVertex Group's holistic approach to building businesses. It truly goes beyond just surface-level strategy, doesn't it? Focusing instead on that invisible architecture of leadership, trust, and community, all of it exemplified by their really transformative BEAST philosophy and those comprehensive supporting frameworks like RICH, LEGACY, and ADAPT. It really feels like it's about building something designed to last because it's built intentionally from the inside out.
It really does. And there's a line in the Beast Business Builders Playbook that feels like a good place to land. It states, Beast business builders are not born. They are built through the disciplines of leadership. So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to consider is this. What invisible architecture are you intentionally building right now? Or perhaps what are you unintentionally allowing to take shape in your own work, your own projects, maybe even your life? How might embracing this kind of deeper, more disciplined approach to leadership, this BEAST approach, redefine, change your own definition of success, and maybe even legacy?
That is a truly powerful thought to leave you with. Think about that invisible architecture. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive today. We really hope it's given you some impactful ideas to reflect on and perhaps apply in your